Hi there, Ollie Anderson here. You're listening to Creative Status. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. This is a place where we talk about using the creative process as a vehicle for moving towards wholeness. That means a connection to ourselves, connection to other people, connection to life itself, as the creative process allows us to make the unconscious conscious, so we can release some of the emotional stuff we've been clinging onto maybe, and integrate some of the hidden parts of ourselves that are locked behind false identities and all of the underlying emotional stuff that I just mentioned. Today's interview is with Hedi Schaefer. Hedi is a coach who helps people to turn their wounds into wisdom and to get out of survival mode and into thriving. That's ultimately what we talk about in this conversation. What thriving is, how you can start to thrive, how you can step away from all of the friction and frustration and misery that comes from being stuck in survival mode, how our perspective sometimes keeps us in that place because of self-limiting beliefs and all that kind of thing. Lots of good stuff. So Hedi, thank you so much for your time. Everybody else, hope this helps you unblock yourself and get moving. If this does help you, please share it with someone. Please leave a review. And other than that, here we go. Thanks a bunch. Boom. Oh, hi there, Hedi. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Creative Status. We're going to be talking kind of about how we go from a state of survival to thrival and some of the issues and ideas that may pop up along the way down that path. Before we get into it, do you feel like introducing yourself, telling people what you're all about, and also sharing what you want to get out of this conversation?
Love to. Yes. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Hedi. I call myself a work-life innovation coach. So I've been in the innovation industry for since 2009, so almost 15 years, and always high performer. Before that, I was artist management in Germany. But then I crashed. 6 years ago when I had my daughter, and nothing made sense anymore. And I recreated myself and my work life. I was having this innovation background, so I could pick on that, but recreated everything myself, my work, my life. And today I'm this work life innovation, actually self-actualization coach. Who is also speaking and also authoring, so writing books and also being a mom and just living my life, being a human being and not a human doing at times. And that's my mission, is to just get everything out there what I've learned, so people don't have to have this painful experience for such a long time, but have more shortcuts.
Yeah, that's awesome. So basically you've taken what you went through and you've kind of, I guess, packaged it up, so to speak, so that you can use your experience in your coaching services and all that kind of thing to help people avoiding the kind of crash that you were talking about. Is that a fair thing to say?
I think it's not avoiding, it's exactly the crash, but using the crash as the greatest chance of your life. Like, I think we're in this avoiding, I don't know, era. So we don't, but it's actually the path, like going through the darkness is the path into the light, and going really step by step through, as some clients just said, like going through the mud, but with rubber boots on. Like, you can go through the mud and just get stuck all the time. But I think you don't have to. Like, you can really move forward. And this 3C, as I call it, just 3C innovation canon framework helps you to get into this clarity, into this cleansing of your blocks, of your old trauma, and then get into the creative mode, which is basically the path forward and not backwards and not stuckness mode.
You've just raised so many of my favorite topics that it's going to be hard for me to decide which direction to go in. I love what you just said about not avoiding the crash.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, in my life, like, some of the worst things that happened when in my past, where I have thought that I've crashed, in retrospect, actually turned out to be a blessing when I got to the other side of them.
Yeah.
And I think if I had found a way to avoid those situations, which sucked at the time, then actually I would have missed out because they taught me so many things. They removed so many layers of bullshit that I was holding on to and stuff like that. And they ultimately showed me who I am and what life is. And it seems like with the little 3 steps that you just given about clarity, cleansing, and creativity, you're kind of helping people to reframe or to take the lessons that the crash is offering them so that they can move into a kind of more real, truthful way of being. Is that like a fair thing to say?
Wonderful pitch. Yes. Yes, 100%. Yes.
So let's break that down then. So let's look at the 2 different themes that are kind of coming up. So one is the avoidance of the crash. Like I think a lot of the time before a crash comes, we kind of do know that it may be on the way, unless it's like an extreme act of God or something like that. But in many cases, we kind of know that the crash is coming, but we're just putting structures and systems in place to avoid it. And actually, like you said, that avoidance can end up causing us problems in the long term. But the other thing as well is like when we do eventually crash and we hit rock bottom, then we find some solid ground on which to build whatever is going to come next, as long as we can learn the lessons that it's teaching us. So let's just literally, I suppose, let's just break down that process from beginning to end. So we'll start at the beginning. If you don't mind bringing your personal experience into it, like obviously that might make it more like real for people as you're talking about, but it's totally up to you. But it sounds so you went through some kind of a crash, and before you literally did crash, like what was going on for you? Like were you feeling overwhelmed? Were there any other signs and symptoms that something was going to happen?
Oh,
and if so, sorry,
yeah,
I'm
I
talking
mean,
a lot.
this is a build-up, right? And I think this crash is as you say, it's just like there's cause and effect, right? So this is like depression. I would say I even had a depression, which is not a thing that it's not a symptom. It's like building, and then your body shuts down. So this was my escape mechanism. So I was having a child. I was in this high performance mode. I was so tired all of a sudden of my life, of the person I was, but I had no clue. And I was also at the time I was always identifying with what I was doing outside. So I was, in Germany working for the pop stars when I was like in my 20s. Then 25, I went through, I was part of this innovation consultancy. So I was jetting across the globe and, being in big companies, always working 14 hours, totally normal, more, trying achievement, always not enough. I didn't know that at the time, but that was sort of the driver. And then I had my baby, and as you might know, or people outside know, that when you have a baby, like your whole sort of childhood comes back. You realize, okay, wow, I haven't even mothered myself, so how can I be a mother? Then this whole high performance, I was like, what am I doing? Like this whole meaning, I didn't find meaning because I wanted to be with my baby and with my family, and I found peace also with this new role, but I couldn't identify with it. Like I had nothing to prove anymore, and I was not really like before. Could tell you like great things what I was doing. Now I didn't know what I was doing anymore, and I also, the worst thing, I didn't know who I was. So that was really, really, really painful. And to look at that wound, to look at, okay, into the mirror and who am I? And how can I pivot this? And how can I stay home when I can't even, like, I couldn't go travel anymore. Like, it was not possible for me anymore to go on a train, on a plane. It was just absolutely not possible. Outside there is so much noise. I am so sorry. I have to.
No, it's okay.
Are you hearing this? Sorry, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, hopefully though, by the time this episode comes out, I will have got rid of it all. I'll use some kind of AI magic or something. So don't worry. It's totally cool.
Okay. Yeah. So that was that was the beginning of my story, basically, because I was very tired of myself, of the mask I was playing. then I was realizing, okay, depression is actually a sign of deep rest, like resting from the masks, and also up leveling. So, and I was going through a very, very severe grieving process. So what I think people don't realize, this change process is actually very, very similar to a grieving process, grieving your old identity, but not knowing what is next. And this space of this uncertainty of the unknown is very, very painful. And I had to heal extreme generational trauma, limiting beliefs. Like when you're with the baby at home, you hear yourself talking to yourself, like all these limiting beliefs that I wasn't good enough for this, I was just not smart enough, I was just not getting it right, I was the only one who doesn't get it right because people are not talking about it. And I was like, am I the only one? I was like, yeah, you're the only one. But going outside then luckily saved me. So that was the first step. So I knew from my old identity, let's say, like from this innovation, you go outside and you talk to people, like what is really the problem. And I needed to figure out what the real problem was and if I was the only one. So luckily I went outside and I met tons of people who were in this change process, in this transition, and felt exactly the same. So I didn't feel as shitty anymore. And then I got help. I got a lot of help, and I was literally like my daughter was sleeping 3 hours during the day. So these 3 hours I took to heal my nervous system, sleeping a lot. I was literally like sleeping sometimes, I don't know, 19 hours a day. No, just kidding, but like a lot, and doing so many meditations, so many reprogramming my subconscious mind. I went into energy healing. What I do also now with clients, going into the subconscious mind, what I do with my clients now, because I wanted to create, or I wanted, I come from a psychologist. My family is psychologists. So everything is analytical. Everything is with your brain. And you have like all these chapters for people, or like boxes. I'm not like that. So I also, there's this saying that I always, until that point, kept in my subconscious, was like, you, how's that in English? You you wear your baggage all day, all of your lives, like you have this rucksack. And I didn't believe that. I couldn't believe that. And I was then like really on a mission. I was almost like a drug addict. Like what are the fastest, most effective tools to break patterns, to break limiting beliefs, to break trauma that goes back to sometimes 13th century, because there's six really states of your being where you need to look at when it comes to unblocking trauma or limiting beliefs or the shit that you carry. And that I didn't know that at the time. So now I know that it's not just what can I just carry on. I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
No, it's good. Like ultimately though, there's a kind of pattern that's emerging, which I think is very, very human. Like it's very, like what you're talking about is very universal in a sense. And it's that people, they end up in this survival mode, human doing, because of all of the underlying trauma and shame and guilt that they've picked up.
Right.
But they don't necessarily realize it's there. It's driving them unconsciously.
Right.
When that kind of trauma etc is driving them, they have to create a kind of false/unreal version of themselves to be able to cope with it.
Yeah.
And then they go out into the world and they try and build a life for themselves on top of what that kind of false, unreal ego, let's say, version has shown them of life. And that's when they end up chasing all of these things like, power, career, responsibility, etc. And they can be good things, but they treat them as being the thing that's the ultimate, like it's going to fill the void.
Yeah.
But actually, the only thing that can fill the void is reconnecting to the truth about who they are.
Yeah.
If they don't know that, then eventually something happens that reintroduces the truth back into the equation. And in your story, based on what you've shared, that was having your daughter. Like when your daughter entered your life, it kind of cracked open this gap between how you were seeing yourself and I suppose how you really felt inside because of this kind of disconnection that I'm talking about. And then you had to kind of start to raise awareness of what was actually going on, and then go through the process of learning to accept yourself again, so that you had a more solid foundation, and then you could start building on that foundation and start building the life that's more real and where you can start to feel like you're thriving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, in my case, it wasn't really, again, it was for the first time, right? So for a lot of people, it is accepting yourself for the first time.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
because as you said, like, you have so much stuff from like older generation. There's no blame because, that's going back centuries. But this, I think there's so much beauty in us talking and in all of these transformation that's happening, that's very outside in the open, on social media, whatever, where people actually start to make this normal and make this applicable, and that it's the first generation who breaks the curses, or to cycle break. That
Yeah.
is, to me, like, sometimes I go to bed and I'm like, I'm so flippin' grateful to be alive at this time where
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
actually do this kind of work, and we have peers. We're talking now, like, okay, 6 years back I was like, I'm the only one. No, of course not. It's almost, it's universal, and people are waking up like at lightning speed. And there are such heroes and sheroes. I sometimes, wow, I'm just I'm so in awe what they've been through and how they really mend themselves like puzzle pieces to this incredible, new real powerful version of themselves, yeah not taking any bullshit anymore, but just building a life, being alive.
Where do you think that intergenerational trauma comes from? Like, maybe that's a stupid question. Like, how do you think the intergenerational trauma is passed down? Because it's true. Like, a lot of the main reasons that people are stuck in survival mode and they don't live the lives that they want to live is because they've been shamed in childhood, and that shame has caused them to go into hiding, basically, and to disown the real version of themselves, etc, etc. But what I've seen, like in my coaching practice, is once people do become aware of the kind of thing that you're talking about, which is that if you just, face yourself ultimately and kind of ride through these crashes and start rebuilding, then you can kind of, it's almost like you're pressing a reset button, and you can kind of go back to being the version of yourself that you wanted to be. And then, like, you're less likely to pass down the shame and so on to the next generation. And that's going to have the ripple effect of, you know, meaning that they're less likely to pass it on, and so on and so forth. And so the chain is broken.
Yeah.
But when we put it like that, it sounds kind of easy. So what do you think caused the previous generations to keep in that cycle, like to keep passing it down?
Not healing, as you said, like, what is it? Traumatized people or hurt people hurt people.
Hurt
And
people hurt people. Yeah.
yeah, and heal people heal people. So I believe if you don't heal your stuff, you will automatically pass it down subconsciously, because this is what, and to your question, it's all energy. I mean, when we look at the states, so can I just like what I've just observed in my coaching practice, when we unblock it, and unblock the energy. There's one, your adult life right now, like you become aware of things like your patterns, your limiting beliefs, and then you can sort of consciously break it, right? You can create new patterns that are more healthy, that are more functional. Then the second state of your being is childhood, like the first years of your life. You're in theta mode, like your brain is very receptive. It gets like ingrained super easily, like how you observe people are, your parents, or how they are with you. If you can actually climb a tree, sounds stupid, but if it's the most dangerous thing and you're like, oh, okay, I can't really, express myself, whatever it
mm,
is. And then the
mm,
third one, it's six, right? We're only on two. So the third one is in the mother's womb. What kind of
mm,
trauma
mm,
have you experienced there? What kind of choices did your mom make that is ingrained energetically in your body?
mm,
The fourth one, now it
mm,
gets really freaky, is your parents, like the belief system or the trauma that they experienced. I didn't have a dad, but I had to, I wouldn't say break, but I had to heal his trauma, which was sexual abuse. I was never sexually abused, but
mm,
these the energy was in my body.
mm.
The
Yeah,
trauma
yeah.
was in my body. Now we're on to fifth, and
Mm,
that is all of the ancestors that came before, that you are able to. I mean, not everyone's saying, yeah, or some people are like, so do I have everything in myself? I think those people who are brave enough to feel it, they're able to heal it. Not
mm,
everyone out of a family is, feeling it, and are cycle breakers. I
mm,
don't think everyone is.
mm,
You know. And then the sixth one is maybe also, I know
mm,
it sounds freaky, but your own past lives. So
mm,
sometimes, or often, very often, we go back to when witches were burned. You had a
mm,
gift and you were afraid to show it because you experienced this death, or you experienced another death, like stabbing. I have a lot of stabbing, believe it or not. Or like war trauma, when it's always about decision making. It sounds very
mm,
complex, but if you understand, or if you are like a detective and detect what kind of choice was made that is still ingrained in your body. For instance, life is not life. I give up on life. That is a very common
mm,
belief, or like a trauma that is can be ingrained in your body, like from a 16th, 14th century. It doesn't matter. But
mm.
this, in order to when you detect it and cleanse it, then yes, of course, your whole life becomes completely different. And I had a extreme client who was like all in client,
Mm,
total shiro, and she also realized, well, on top of that, I am a karma carrier. So someone who is like, who's taking on the shit of also other people and trying to
mm,
cleanse it, and it's like this people pleaser, whatever. So in order, it's just energy, but from
mm,
different parts of your existence, and
mm,
you can
mm,
just detect it. It's in your system. It's like you're in your computer,
mm.
and then you find sort of the defaults and fix it. It sounds very weird, but yeah, that's ultimately what I think it is.
Yeah. So I suppose if we're going to make this really practical,
Mhm.
how would we distinguish between the kind of the survival energy that we're carrying inside us, that's maybe holding us back from the life we want to be living,
Yeah.
and then a more kind of thrival energy, if that's the way of phrasing it? Like,
Yeah.
what are the things to look out for? I guess, like, how do we know if we're carrying this stuff inside us, and we maybe are been driven by some unconscious thing, which obviously we're not aware of because it's unconscious, that's causing us to keep repeating these old unhelpful patterns that we've picked up from previous generations, but also that we've learned to identify with, actually, and we think that are part of who we are as well. So if we step beyond, just the way that we look at life to the level of the energy we're carrying, how do we know where we are, I guess, on this continuum of surviving to thriving? If
Mhm.
that's not too weird of a question.
No, that's very, very good. Um, I think in terms of trauma, or in terms of survival state, this is our brain, right? So
Mm,
we're always looking for outside approval. We're always looking for the next big thing. We can't really be with ourselves. And this distraction can be a lot of things. Like it can be shopping. For me, it was compulsive shopping. It could be social media. It could be sex. It could be drugs. It could be alcohol. It could be anything that that you feel like you need in order to calm down your nervous system, that you feel connected. Anything that you feel that you need outside, and then it's gone. Like the next second is gone. Like I needed to go shopping the next day because I didn't even like what I was shopping. It was just the immediate satisfaction. And so that is a big sign, and not being able to really breathe and being with yourself for a longer period of time. Now, also, when I ask this question, like, who are you? Most people can't really say. Then they talk in boxes or in labels. Like I'm this, like I was introducing myself. So I'm Hedi. I'm the coolest being on earth. Like I'm just a fun, really loving being that just wants to experience life. That's actually who I am. My purpose is love and light. So this is also the part where it gets a bit. I mean, this is work, right? This is evolving. I found out my purpose was love and light. I was laughing because I wasn't love and light at all. Wow. My heart was so closed off. And so all this clarity that we were talking about at the beginning, and then really stepping into, okay, what is my purpose? Asking yourself, what is my purpose? If you don't have an answer, then you can't really thrive. I think if you don't know your values, how are you supposed to navigate? Because values tell you, okay, well, this relationship is really matching and this isn't. And then all the visions that I've got, like, are you forward moving, or are you in your past? Like, are you still living in the past? Are you in the present? Can you be present and still look out for a brighter future? So these are, I think, the most common nominators. I don't know if that's the word, but for the survival state, and also not knowing what is actually thriving.
Yeah, like
true thriving.
Yeah,
not this excitement. No, like thriving is a state, I believe.
Yeah, like I think we'll pick that state to pieces in a second. I think like that's going to be like a vital part of this conversation. But I just think it's so interesting what you said about, people are out there, they're in survival mode, and because they're in survival mode, they're basically in a state of panic, let's say, or they're living in a very fearful kind of way. And because they're not ready to face the source of that fear, which I believe is the disconnection from who they really are and the kind of purpose that you're talking about, they end up trying to kind of outsource their good feelings about themselves with some other external bullshit thing. So in your case, it was like shopping, like compulsive shopping. For some people, it's compulsive relationships. For some people, it's compulsive addictions to like drugs or, I don't know, pornography or whatever it is. People just get so caught up in these compulsions that actually make surviving a lot harder, purely because they're disconnected from themselves and their purpose in the way that you're talking about. And they end up spending so much time kind of chasing the next big thing, like you're saying, which is obviously colored by whatever it is that we're addicted to, and we're trying to fill the void with, that it exacerbates the problem, basically, and it makes it worse, because the more time they're spending on shopping and so on and so forth, the less time they actually spend just being still, I guess, and being with themselves, so that this sense of purpose that's always there can kind of swim up to the surface. Yeah. And so I suppose that's sorry.
And just to add on that, I think what you said is very interesting, because they feel shittier.
Yeah.
Because they did it again. I felt shittier because I did it again.
Yeah.
Clients are feeling shittier because, again, pornography, as you said, or again, and it's very like you always have to tame yourself. That's how it feels like, and you're so full of judgment about yourself and about other people. That is a huge sign of,
Yeah.
not really in a thriving mode, because I
Wow.
like this whole judgment thing. Just, I mean, wow, what that like, and not realizing that you are enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Like ultimate. Yeah.
unconditionally enough.
Yeah. Like ultimately, that's what it all comes down to.
Yes.
Like you've just hit the nail on the head, right? Like when we're thriving, we've basically got to that point where we accept ourselves unconditionally,
Yeah.
good and bad.
Yeah.
And in accepting that, we realize that there is some gift that we have to offer the world,
Yeah.
which for brevity is our purpose, right?
Yes.
When we don't accept ourselves, we feel all of this underlying shame and fear of life itself, which turns up the volume on survival mode. And that's when we end up getting addicted to all these different things that we're talking about that we think are going to like help us feel good in the sense of being able to avoid all of that unresolved shame and so on and so forth. The problem is, in the short term, at first, that stuff does make us feel good. So, like, probably the first time, let's just hypothetically say, when you first went shopping and it became something that was mood altering and that you eventually became addicted to, it did feel good. Like maybe you had a bad day, you were feeling depressed, whatever it was. You went out and you bought a nice handbag or something. Sorry, I'm making a bunch of assumptions here,
Yeah.
but it made you feel good. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All of that tension I was carrying by resisting myself, it's gone in the short term. So then the next time you feel that tension, you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm feeling a bit shit today. Last time I was feeling shit, I went shopping and I felt, this buzz. I'm going to go do it again. So then you go do it again and again and again. Eventually, the buzz starts wearing out, and you realize, oh, okay, this was just a temporary kind of feel good thing because I've been able to release some of those bad feelings I was holding on to. Now I'm addicted, and then I've got this extra level that you were talking about. It's like, oh, I feel bad because I keep doing it. I can't give it up. And then we just keep adding all these layers, which make us feel worse and worse and worse. And then eventually, because we're not chasing real life, that's when we have a crash, ultimately, something like that. But either way, it's all about trying to avoid the feelings of self-worth, which can be dissolved by, I guess, facing them head on. And then we get to the thrival stage. So I guess I got two questions for you. One is, do you agree with all this stuff I've just rambled about? And two, what does it tell us about like actual thriving? And how do we get into that thrival state that you were talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Yeah, first and foremost, yes, of course. I think it's also hormonal, right? So dopamine is a very big thing in all of that, right? It's like this like on Instagram. Like, how many likes do I have today? How many releases and how many dopamine spikes do I have today? Like it's shopping or whatever it is. It's like this spike. Also feeling alive. Also feeling alive. Like my nervous system calms down. I'm maybe in control of something. So I go shopping. Not somebody goes shopping, like goes me shopping. I don't know if that's, I am in control of my money. It's all of this. It's all of this false concepts of holding on to something that is an illusion, basically. Now, thriving is not an illusion. It's very real.
Yes.
Thriving is a very, it sounds Hollywood, but it's actually a very substantial state of being and operating, as you said, because everyone has a gift. So if you know your purpose and you know what you're here for, what your gift is, and what kind of service you also can give to the world so that other people are thriving, we're all connected.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate, like it's the the dopamine, I don't know, the dopamine stage, right? You're on you have this gratitude for being alive, for being able to be here and create a life in this crazy world, and you're not affected. Like thriving is also you're having these boundaries and you're not affected by anything that happens outside. I'm so bored by the news. I'm so bored by drama, by conflict, by anything that has low vibration. I'm really, really bored when people try to gossip about something or someone. It's like not even, I can't handle it. I'm just extremely bored. I get so tired and have to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is I think, yeah, it's a frequency. Ultimately, it's a frequency. I mean, if you're looking at the scale, which often is like an aha moment for a lot of people, it was for me, though, this scale of consciousness by Hawkins, which is a revelation when you see, wow, when you're operating, as you said, in shame, in fear, in drama, in outside recognition, you're hyper vigilance, like you're in this constant hyper mode, or depressed. I mean, either or, but you're not in the zone. When you're moving up, like optimism, forgiveness, like you're really getting into your power, and that comes often already with clarity and with shedding some of your old stuff. That is just going hand in hand. Yeah, you're a creator. You become more you're getting out of the victim state and everything, like life happens to me, into life happens for me and maybe also by me. And then you're no, now you're completely new person that creates life rather than is created by outside circumstances, by people, by how the world is it now winter, is it now summer, whatever, it doesn't matter. Life is every day. And then you are kind of moving your frequency, I guess. And when you do that, I mean, we're living in a yeah, we create our reality, and we're in a magnetic, we're in a quantum field, right? So you also attract like these people that are super nice that you didn't meet before because you're not vibing the same, right? I would go into a room and just tell people my drama, those people were repelled. Now they're not, because we like the same thing. We just like to go for a coffee and talk about weird things, the sun maybe, or I don't know, angels, I don't know, but like things that, yeah, that's thriving for me.
Yeah. Do you think thriving, like I was about to ask this like it was a really deep question, but it's actually a little bit of a cliche as well. But anyway, like thriving is kind of like, it's about letting go, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Like ultimately it's just letting go and trusting life to work with you in the way that you're talking about. And the only things that we can let go of are all of that, the unreal things that, keep us stuck in that survival mode that you've been talking about. So like we have to let go of our needs to dramatize everything. We have to let go of our need to control everything. Yeah. And like we were saying, like with our addictions, whether it's shopping or whatever else, that is about control, isn't it? Like when we're shame driven, which is why we feel that we have to be stuck in survival mode anyway, because we're driven by the shame and the false version of ourselves we identify with because of that, then we end up just filtering life through the same old bullshit over and over and over again, and it just holds us back. And the more of that bullshit that we let go of, which is drama, control, anything else like that, then we do move up that Hawkins scale that you were talking about, where we're just free to just be, like another cliche really, but like it really is that simple.
Yeah.
Like take forgiveness, for example. I think you said forgiveness is up near the top of the Hawkins scale. Like forgiveness really is just letting go of all of the grudges and resentment and the ideas and so on that we've got about other people and life, so we can actually just be back in life. That is thriving. And so for me, there's something there. Like to really thrive and to get out of this survival mode, we have to kind of take a leap of faith initially, maybe, because we may have been in survival mode so long that we've just been putting this energy out that keeps bouncing back at us. That is, it seems like life can't be trusted, but it's actually just a reflection of us not trusting ourselves.
Yeah.
But anyway, if we can understand this and let go and trust, then we do move up that scale that you've shared, the Hawkins scale, where we're just flowing basically, and that's when thriving is just flowing, something like that.
Absolutely, 100,000%. Very, very nice. And it's really, as you said, it's not. Yes, get clear. Yes, cleanse. But it's as you said, it's more like this onion, peeling an onion. Like your gold is already there. It's just plastered with all this stuff from all this generation, from society, and it's not your fault. I mean, we also have to be very. This is not judgment based. This is just how has evolved up to this day. And I think the chance to, as you said, to unravel bit by bit and then just flow, and forgiveness is just one way of letting go, forgiving yourself and others. That's just one big part. And you said something so beautiful, and I can't remember. I just wanted to. Yeah, very good. Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down
Yeah.
to
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Security. So when working with clients, often, or 100% of the time, obviously, it's coming down to I want to control, I'm not secure. I am not secure within myself. Like my root chakra is not like it's often not even placed where the root is. And that is so based off of this, early childhood confusion and shaming, as you said, and really, but it dictates us from the back door all of our life if we don't look at it. And that's what we, how we began. Honest look makes things really, it speeds things up. If you're avoiding, and I was a long time, and I'm lucky because my husband then said, I think you should do something now. Then
I love how you said, like, ultimately, to cross that threshold, let's say, and kind of pick out the main threads what we've been talking about, to cross that threshold of surviving to thriving, it is about taking that honest look. Like, I love how you just phrased it like that. Like, you take an honest look. If you take an honest look, the only thing you're going to see is the truth.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately the difference between survival mode and actual thrival mode. I've found, like, when we're stuck in survival mode in the way we've been talking about, it's because we're not taking an honest look, because we've been everything's been so distorted by that intergenerational trauma and then our own self-hypnosis with self-limiting beliefs and all that kind of stuff, that we're not ready to look at the truth. And that's when we end up kind of going down this crazy rabbit hole of getting addicted to shopping and whatever else it is people get addicted to. But if we do just take an honest look, then we're going to see that true connection that we all have to life at all times. And it's like you said, the gold is always there, but we just plaster it with all these different layers of, self-limiting beliefs and like the labels and boxes that you were talking about and all that stuff. And as soon as we look beyond it, then in a way we have no choice but to thrive, because like we just move with life.
Absolutely.
So that's how.
And on top of that, speaking of shortcuts, don't make the mistake, which I also did. A lot of people takes just a lot of time going outside, blaming others, trying to fix others, trying to heal others. No, you are the center of attention. Yes, maybe you're traumatized, like most people are in some way or another, but it is our duty to heal it. It's not somebody else's duty to heal themselves, because be very correct. It's done. It's just energy. The energy is just in your body. It's covering you up, and don't be scared to look at the truth. There's so much scarcity around, because what if I fall? Yes, maybe you will fall, but maybe you have also people around you, or falling means also then thriving, because I always hear, this is one thing I've never shared, but when I was really in panic, I always asked, like, the universe, because I didn't trust it at the very beginning, but I heard Jim Carrey say, "Just ask the universe." I said, "Okay, if Jim Carrey did it, I can do it as well." And I went for a walk, and then my intuition or whatever voice comes up and says, "Lose yourself to find yourself."
Yeah.
Lose
Yeah.
yourself to find yourself. And that became a mantra. I hated it. I didn't like it at all because, again, security. But that brought me to who I am today,
Yeah.
because I was losing that version,
Yeah.
which wasn't me.
Yeah.
Now I am who I am.
Yeah.
And just to make it very practical, just one example, because I know this is oftentimes very philosophical. There are 2 books I wrote. One was before and one was after. I kid you not. The time, because you were talking about the flow state, the
Yeah.
time that I spent on the first was, I don't know, I don't want
Long
to,
time.
like, a long time, because of this limiting beliefs. And I
Yeah.
wasn't really satisfied. I hated it. Not because it was bad, just because I hated myself. And the second one, I loved it. 6 weeks, and it was done. So
Yeah.
that's what practical flow state means, because you're just
Yeah.
putting it on paper, or whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, you're
Yeah.
putting just
Yeah.
out, and that's it.
Yeah. I love it. That's my experience as well with like creative work or just life in general and the
Yeah.
creation of myself, as pretentious as that sounds. Like, if the only thing that holds us back is this false identity that we're talking about and all of the things that we build on top of it, or the things that we try and do to cope with it, like all of the addictions and distractions we were talking about. But when you strip all of that away, then even though life is hard, you can't really lose the battle, because life is always moving towards more wholeness anyway. It's always flowing in the direction that you really want to be going in. And you just have to let go. You have to lose yourself to find yourself, in the way that you said, lose that false idea to find the truth and then move with it. And when you do that, you save yourself time with like all this creative work, because you're not putting obstacles in your own path, basically.
Yeah,
Like this is the
exactly.
other thing. Like with survival mode,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot of the things that we're trying to survive are just things that we've created without knowing, because of unconscious blocks and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when you align yourself in this way you're talking about, a lot of that stuff dissolves, and then everything just life starts thriving, and you thrive with it, basically. Like, a lot of the obstacles in survival mode are just a reflection of us, reflected back at us, projected
Yeah.
out and reflected back.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a long time. Like, it's actually gone very quick. Like, believe it or not, we've been talking for 46 minutes, and it doesn't feel like it.
No.
And I think, we found a flow, as we were hopefully aiming to do. I was trying to create some kind of clever pun there about like the flow thing, but it didn't work. But anyway, if you could wrap all this up, if that is possible, how would you do it? Like, what are your final words of wisdom? And can you also tell people where they can find you, like online or elsewhere, if you so design?
Yeah, now I'm trying to find something really smart to say to wrap it all up.
No pressure.
No pressure, thanks. So, yes, to wrap it all up, what are we talking about? Survival to thrival. And we've said a lot. My final hope is that people become unafraid, or let's put it so curious to experience what the potential could be, and not be like a lot of this research that when they ask people when they die, what was your biggest regret, and they'd say, not living my truth, not walking my path, not really following. That's a huge part. Intuition.
Yeah.
Not thinking, not like trying to control with the brain and what other people would think of me, but not with your heart, not leading with your heart and with your soul. So this is what I would love to, that people, I think that's very, very simple to listen to your heart and love yourself. Learn to love yourself so unconditionally that, because love heals. Love is very, very high on the scale.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King knew it. He had to die. Mahatma Gandhi knew it, he had to die. John Lennon knew it, he had to die. So this is real.
It's
like,
real.
love
But
is real.
You've kind of turned me off now. I'm scared to love in case I'm just going to drop dead or something.
No, it's a different time.
I'm just joking.
I think we're too many now. A whole army. No, I mean, that's ultimately what it is. Listen to your soul, because that is like a massive ship. And if you're not following it and you're going into rough water and you're going away from it, the water gets rougher.
Yeah.
Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
Life is more than that. And if you have that calling and if you have that crisis, there's a reason behind it. You are meant for more.
I love that.
That's all there is to say. You are meant for more. That's why you have this crisis, and not everybody around you, but you have this crisis. So you can grow, you can learn, you can outgrow that stuff and create a life. Stuff versus life.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you've summed it all up. Basically, it's about acceptance. Like, I think love and acceptance are the same thing. Like, and if you can truly accept, then you accept the truth, and then you're going to basically dissolve a lot of these problems that we've been talking about and get flowing again. So, Hedi, that was awesome. Like, I really appreciate all this insight that you shared. What's your website and stuff like that?
Oh, right. www.hedischaefer, HEDISCHAEFER.com. You can find me also on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. And yes, my shop is there, and also my programs, my mastermind, and my membership. So if you feel called, I'd love to meet you and help you navigate this crazy, wonderful journey called life.
Boom. Hedi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Was awesome.